to do our thank yous to all of our sponsors. So this is part of a large collaborative of a bunch of different resource partners. So we have SCORE, who's participating, Valley Community Development, Center for Women in Enterprise, which is where I'm coming from, Common Capital, and then the Franklin County CDC. And then also, of course, the MSBDC, and here you can see all of their different local offices, so definitely feel free to find the one closest to you. But all of these are great resources for everyone, so definitely feel free to reach out to any of them. And now, without further ado, I'm super excited to introduce Dee Dice, who's with the Business Valley Director, Valley Community Development Center.
So here's my contact information. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm the Small Business Director at Valley Community Development, but also I'm a solutions provider for Constant Contact. So Constant Contact has a certification program that you have to re-up every year. And I have to tell you, they are an incredible company because every year you really have to learn a lot of new content because they are increasing their knowledge base. And today I'm talking about email newsletters. And the information I'm sharing is pointed towards Constant Contact, but I just want to make sure that this is not a promotion for Constant Contact at all. It's just that I have information about them in particular. And so I'll be focusing on that a little bit. So let's talk just briefly about where marketing is today. We're not doing print anymore, obviously, and people are very, very focused in on social media. And as you know, in this particular series, we have gone through all the different major social media channels. But there's a few things that are different with social media marketing and email marketing. And this flipping the funnel slide really talks about marketing in general. So on the left, it used to be that, you'd have print advertising or in the newspaper, and you'd focus it to a wider range. And then, if someone thought it was interesting, they'd cut it out or they'd send it to somebody else, or they say, look, I got this postcard in the mail. Let's go to this event. And so it would be a trickle down so that at the bottom of the funnel, you'd have a few people that were really interested and that were, you'd keep and convert. Well, now the whole marketing has really changed because now with email marketing, which is direct to your people, and also social media marketing, you're hitting a smaller target. So what that is supposed to do and does is then the people people want that information, and then they share it with people of like mind who they think might want it. And then you grow your funnel kind of backwards so that you end up at the end keeping and converting more people. So people are actually getting the information they want. They're choosing that information. So then why email newsletters? And obviously I'm a big fan of email newsletters, but during all this different COVID thing that was happening, at one point people were saying, well, our business is closed. We don't have anything to write to our people. And I thought, are you kidding me? Even though your business is closed, how are you doing personally? How is your, asking questions? How's your family doing? What information do you want? What are your struggles? And that's how during this time period, new products, new services are being found out because people are complaining about, my kids in school, or I don't, whatever the different issues are they're having. So talking to your people one-on-one, hugely important. And Anita from the MSBDC has a great example. And that is that she was working with a business that was being sold. And the business owner had a huge Facebook presence and wanted to be compensated for that. And the buyer said, well, we don't have all of the emails. If you had an email list with all those different emails and we could contact them and continue to contact them, then that would be valuable. So, that's part of the difference between email marketing and social media marketing. Email marketing, you're marketing to your people. So, and I had to throw this slide in because email marketing will make your life easier. Trust me, if you could get past the point of creating it and worrying about the content, once you get into a rhythm, it helps you keep existing customers. It will help you find new customers because if there's content that will be shared by someone, and it will save you time in general. Like I said, after you figure out how to do it smoothly and quickly. So it'll save you time finding new customers. So let's talk about why email is your best avenue. Actually, we've already talked a bit about it. First of all, you're in charge of it. You can send it out whenever you want to. You can send it out quickly. If you have something that's on sale, or I used to own a fruit and produce market and garden center. Trust me, there was always something that I needed to put on sale because it was going bad or because we bought too many of it. And so that was how I first got introduced to Constant Contact and email marketing, is that one of my staff suggested it, and I just loved it because I could send out just a quick, short email saying, I'm putting these on sale right now, or a delivery truck is coming on Tuesday, and then people would know there'd be all sorts of fresh inventory. So I'm in charge of it. I'm in control of it. If something changes, and we've all seen this with Facebook on a social media platform, that could change how many followers you have and change who sees what part of your social media. And of course, people say to me, well, do people really use email? Well, if you're in any kind of business, trust me, you use email every day, right? So 89%. Now this is of consumers. Check their personal email at least once a day. I wish I had a statistic about people in business. How often do we check our emails 10 times a day? So you're getting a personal window into their email inbox, and that's important.
Hey, Dee.
Mm-hmm.
We have one question, and I think we covered it before folks logged on, but I think it would be good to retouch on it real quick.
Okay.
So Celia asked, how different will this presentation be than MailChimp? That is what I plan to use, as it is free and I'm a very small business. I have a few little businesses and want to make an email list for each.
Great. So actually, as you see in the slide, I was just going to talk about MailChimp. This is exactly what you want to know if you're using MailChimp. Okay. First of all, the concept, of course, of using an email service is what we're talking about right now. But many of the concepts that have Constant Contact are exactly the same in MailChimp. As a matter of fact, I'll talk about how the two of them relate right now. The biggest difference is that MailChimp is free for under 500 names, emails. Both email services, you can send out as many emails as you want. How they charge is by the number of contacts. And so MailChimp for under 500 is free. So perfect for a starter business. And Constant Contact is, I believe, $25 until you hit, I could be wrong, maybe 1,000. And so it'll go up from there. But any of these, you can take your email contact list and export it and switch to a different service if you want. For example, right before this, I was working with a guy who had MailChimp, and he decided to switch to Constant Contact. And so he had an Excel spreadsheet of his contact list from MailChimp. So it's easy to do that. And also, like I said, you'll see how I add pictures and use lists. All that's the same. Okay, choosing an email service. There are Constant Contact and Mailchimp are the two I'm going to talk about. They're the biggest. Well, they may not be the biggest ones anymore. There's a lot of different services, and all the concepts apply. The one big difference I see, besides the dollar amount, is that in Constant Contact there is a help desk that is fabulous. They usually answer the phone, and I have been to them numerous times, and I'll say, I just can't get that picture right. And she will say, oh, what account? Oh, look at that. Is it this email newsletter? Oh, let me fix it. Is that what you wanted? I feel like praying to them. Yes, that's exactly what I wanted. So they'll help you fix it. They're very helpful in many different ways. So choosing a service is definitely important. A couple of the things that are unique to email services. So one is the graphics. And, people say to me, well, why can't I just send out a bulk email? Well, first of all, bulk emails, many of them will go to spam if they're put into bulk. Okay. Second of all, it's hard to put pictures in and graphics so that they have a nice appeal to it. So that's one thing. Analytics, oh my God, wait till you see the reports. You can see exactly who opened the email at what time and who clicked on the links. We have a grant program coming up, and we have some key people that we want to give the information to spread it out. And because we're using Constant Contact, we can see, have all those key people looked at that? So it's very important, and we'll get to that when we talk about lists. Oh my God, the duplication thing is also huge. Let's say you have a huge list of emails and you're putting it through your personal or your business email to send them out. Suppose there's a duplication and then someone gets 3 emails that are all the same. We've all been there, right? So Constant Contact will make sure, or any email service should make sure that there's not a duplication of, as long as the email address is exact, of course. So I'll show you that too. 98% of Constant Contact emails hit the customer inbox. 77% don't. And it's a very inexpensive way to go forward. Now, down here with the newsletter, announcements and promotions, these are all things that are offered in Constant Contact. And I'm not sure if they're offered in, they're for, it's called Email Plus. It's like the step up from Constant Contact. So, and this is just more of the same, brand with logos, use your logos and your colors in an email to brand them. Of course, it shows up on, Constant Contact will show you how many people looked at their newsletter on a mobile and how many looked at it on their desktop. You can use coupons and connect it with social media through Constant Contact. And like I said before, a lot of the graphics. So now we're going to go into phase 2, where we're going to talk about actually how do you do it. And to the person who is talking about MailChimp, this, like I said, this will be similar. Selecting a template, customizing the template, adding in the contacts, schedule and sending, and looking at the reports. So those are the things we're going to go over next. After, we see a little slideshow. Like I said, I've had a few different problems with this, but it's we'll see if this works.
This video tutorial will go over everything from adding your contacts to creating and sending your first email. We'll also take a quick look at reporting and the different ways you can grow your contact list. Let's get started with adding your contacts. Click the Contacts tab and then click Add Contacts.
Dee,
From the
I don't think we
drop-down,
can see the
choose how you
video.
want to add your contacts.
What's that?
You can either
I
type
don't-
in one,
I don't
paste
think we
in a
can
few,
see the actual
or
video.
add them from a spreadsheet. Let's add
Oh,
them
you
from a
can't.
spreadsheet. Click
Mm-mm.
Upload
It's
from
just like
File.
a little
Either
snippet.
drag
It
your
says like
file
how to
into the
guide.
embedded area,
It looks like it's the
or click
PowerPoint
Browse your computer.
presentation.
Once you select your file, you'll be prompted to match your columns to our columns. This
So you couldn't see that?
Nope. And it's not even showing, like, we're still looking at the PowerPoint presentation, but only like a snippet of it.
Okay. Okay, can you see this now? Can you see the newsletter?
No. Did you do a new share?
Nope, I didn't touch it.
Maybe you need to do, like, if you go down to share screen and maybe select it again.
All right. I'm gonna stop sharing and then reshare. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now you can see my screen right here.
Yep, I can see the constant contact now.
Great. Let me try that. Oh, nope, the video's gone. Sorry, folks, no video. So I'm going to do the video instead. So this is our email newsletter account, okay? And I want to go with you. Let's go into contacts first. Because usually when you're starting your email newsletter, that's one of the first things you want to do is enter in your contacts. And no, you don't have to enter them in one by one. You can do that. But the best way to do that is to add contacts up here. You'll see this right here? Here's your contacts. And right here, it'll say add contacts. We'll go through the other ones in a minute. So you can enter in a new contact. You can type or paste a series of them, but this is the one I like the best, upload from file. So ideally, all your contacts are going to be in a spreadsheet. Now, you can also, I should have gone back. There is a possibility of adding it from your Gmail account, I believe. So I have a list of contacts here that I'm going to drop and drag right in, okay? And this is what it will look like. Okay, the name is here, the last name. Now this field has a phone number. We don't need that. So we're going to skip that column. Okay, we're not going to use the birthday either, skipping that column. And see, all this spreadsheet had all these different columns that were skipped. Okay, and so that's how you set it up. Okay, and then once you're done and all the columns look, there's no more pink left, they're all just like this, then you press continue. And you know what, I guess we can do that. So you know what, I'm not going to do that right now because my screen is moving. My guess is it'll say I can't continue. So anyway, they'll tell you every step of the way, but what happens next is then those will go into a list that you have. Let's see. I apologize. I've had a few computer problems today. Okay, so let's look at the list that Valley has. So this is called, this is a whole area where we've created lists for different types of viewers. And so Valley Community Development, we do housing, we do first-time homebuyer classes, and then we also do business one-on-one. So there's certain emails that I'd like to just send to my business people. or the business organizations. And as you can see, we have a realtor list at the top. You know, Amherst contacts to promote land trust program. We have 14 people in that list. So we're using it that way, and it's really easy to create a new list, right? So put the list name right here, and you're done, okay? And moving these lists around, adding them together, merging them, all of that is very easy to do. So this is where you see a list of the lists, Here's where you'll see individual contacts. And you can also manipulate them very easily. You can add them, subtract them, you know, take this here and it'll give you all the different status things that you can do with them. So it's important to segment your list and have them separate, and people separate them by different interests, by different locations. Maybe you just want to send an email to people in one certain area, but all of that will go through on Thursday. I'm doing an advanced email newsletter series or workshop. So we'll go through that then. So that's pretty much context. Let's go over to campaigns. And that's the word that Constant Contact uses for an email newsletter, a campaign.
Hey Dee, before we switch over, we did have a question come in.
Oh yeah, let's ask a question. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
No worries. So Celia asked, how do you set up the spreadsheet, and can you import your contacts or one by one? Then how do you make your separate lists? Is there a way to mark them?
So in Contacts, you want to create separate lists. And how you do that is, I'm sorry, my computer's a little bit slow. How you do that is you go over to this list section right here, right? And it'll say create a list, okay? And you just create the list, put a new name in there, and it automatically goes in there. And then when you have, if you have a spreadsheet, it'll give you a choice to go into which list you want. And there was another part to that question that I'm forgetting. Something about contacts.
So it was, how do you set up the spreadsheet? And then can you import your contacts? And it was kind of like, do you import them one by one, or how do you make, oh, you covered the list. So yeah, how do you set up the spreadsheet, and can you import your contacts?
Right. So yes, you can import your contacts the way I just showed you. And how you set up the spreadsheet, usually you would use either Google Sheets or Excel, and you just need first name, last name, email address. That's all you need. So see this add contacts right here? So, so you can also go here and it'll give you a place to type them in if you wanted to do that, or if you wanted to copy them and paste them from a document. I mean, it's a slower way to go, but that would be how it looks. First name, last name, you know, you would just type something right in here. Okay. Any other questions on contacts?
Don't see any more, but if anyone does have questions, feel free to put them either in the chat box or the Q&A, and I'll make sure that we cover those.
Okay.
Oh, actually, we just got one from Rick. So he said, recently using MailChimp, some people are reporting that my emails are ending up in their junk folder without them flagging the source as junk. Any thoughts as to why this is happening?
Well, I certainly don't know about why that would happen, why that would be a change, unless someone on there. So if the person has been getting the email newsletters in their regular mail, it could be that there's some kind of change on that person's computer, some kind of security update that would have it go to junk mail. usually what you would ask people to do when you would send out a first time email would say, can you whitelist my email so that it always goes to my inbox? So that would be a way to handle that. So, I don't know why that's happening all of a sudden. Certainly it can happen initially when someone's getting used to getting emails from you.
And then we actually had a couple more. Do you want to answer these now?
Yeah, that would be fine. And actually they'll be great because my screen is doing something funny and I'm going to reboot it.
Gotcha. Okay. So this one comes from Phyllis. So she said, is there a way to get our contacts from our email without typing them into a spreadsheet?
That's a good question that I don't know the answer to. For example, if you have a Gmail account, how to get those Gmail account. I don't know the answer to that. One thing we're going to talk about in a minute is that email marketing is permission-based. So you don't necessarily want all of your contacts in there. Or if you do put them in there, then you have to initially say, this is a permission-based system. This is the first time I'm sending this. Please delete this if you don't want it. So that would be a question. That's a great question for someone from Google who will be on in the next few weeks. We can ask that.
Awesome. And then
okay, go ahead.
There's another question. So this one is from Gretchen. She said, is there a way to track the source of the contact?
Yes, in the spreadsheet, let's say you have a spreadsheet with people's names on it that you're going to import them. You can add a column that says company or source, and then that data will be in that person's individual contact. Yes, you can do that.
Awesome. And then Gary said, can an email list from Outstand.com, their email marketing service, be imported to Constant Contact?
An email list from where?
Outstand.com.
So I don't know what Outstand.com is, but I'm going to take this moment to review the permission-based part of it. So you don't want a list of contacts from that you're going to buy or from some company that you don't know that says, oh, in your area, there are 350 people that might use your product. You don't want that list. And here's why. Because Constant Contact or any email service has some regulations associated with it. And it's a permission based. You have to check a box that says, I have asked permission to do this. Like I said, we're going to go over this a little bit more. So let's say you import a list like that and you have a lot of people who have no idea who you are or where you're coming from, or they've never heard of you before. There's the high possibility that they're going to mark you as spam. Certainly they could just unsubscribe. But if they mark you as spam, then the email newsletter provider marks that down. And if you get too many spams, then they recognize that you're not using it permission-based and they'll delete your account. And so I've worked with one person that happened to, that I said, you really shouldn't be doing that if people mark you as spam. And Constant Contact called them and said, you have too many people marking you as spam. And they don't want, Constant Contact in particular touts the fact that, they are stringent about those regulations. So they don't want different people doing that. So they will delete your account. So if it's a list from an organization you're affiliated with, or someone that you have some kind of association with, my opinion is that you can send out a one-time email saying, I got your name from this list. Here's what I'm going to provide for you. Please delete this if you don't want it.
And Gary did clarify, so he said outstand.com is a similar service to Constant Contact. So I think it's just exporting from that system to Constant Contact.
And so his question was, can you use, if it's a similar system, then you export it into a spreadsheet and then upload it. Was there something else?
Yeah, it was just, can an email list from outstand.com be imported to Constant Contact?
Yes, you have to do the step in between though. You have to put it into an Excel file or a spreadsheet file. It has to be in a spreadsheet format. All right.
Perfect. And that is all of our questions so far.
Great. Thank you for reminding me to stop for those questions.
No worries.
So now we're going to talk about the email in general and the use of a template. So this is a list of some of Valley's emails. And this is the test copy that I'm going to use. And a common practice, and like I said, I'm all about making this simpler, making it easy, and having people actually do it. So one of the techniques that I tell people is there's a couple of things. So one is create a template that you like, that has all the formatting, the colors, and everything that you like in it. Then create some categories so that when you get to working on it, you're not kind of blank, like, oh my God, now what do I write? So you might, and I'm going to use the garden center example, but you might have one about what's plant of the month, or what we're doing, what's new in the news as far as plants and garden centers, and a to-do list. So you have different sections that then you can just go in and fill out. And maybe you don't want to do that each time, but it gives you a place to start. So I have a company that I do a regular email newsletter with, and they have 5 organizations in one email newsletter. And so we have a different section for each of those 5 people. And sometimes, they don't think they have any news, so we don't put anything in there for them. But what they do is they have each of those organizations write up the content and then funnel it to me, and then I organize it and link it. So, so what I've done here is I've made a copy of one of the newsletters that I like, and I'm going to use that to open up. But right now I'm going to show you how to start creating your own. So see this create button? Let's see where it brings us. Maybe it's not going to open. Well, that's kind of interesting. Well, so now we'll go to the test copy. Okay, maybe I have a frozen account here. Okay, so I am going to I told you I was having computer problems today. All right, so I'm going to delete and start over again. Because I'm a solutions provider, I have a list of different accounts that I manage so that I can easily go in and check up on different people, or if someone sends me their newsletter and they want me to look at it before they send it out, I do that for them also. So let's hope this works. Okay, so this says create. So we're going to create an email. And what you'll see here is, and so if you're first starting, this is a good place to look at a template and see what you want to use. Okay, so these have all different, what you're looking at mostly is the blocks. Like, okay, so this one has a small header, a big picture, and a button. This one has pictures on the sides. So that's what you're looking for in a template. What I do like about this, and I think MailChimp does this too, is they give you a couple of these templates for different holidays. So you don't have to create something right, from scratch if you're doing, like, look at these ones for fall. Aren't those nice? So you can use one of those as a template and then and start from there. Okay, there's anniversary, their birthday. I mean, there's a million different things.
And someone just asked, how do you get these templates?
They're in your account. So you need, for any email service, you have to sign up for an account, put all your information in, and get your account started. And then you'll see these templates in your account. So what I've done here is I've copied this. See these? Edit, preview. So we're going to edit this email. So in order to get started, you want to go to that create an account. Okay. So I'm going to show you how you can modify it from the beginning, but also if you have an email newsletter, what you can do. So this is about customizing it. Okay. So as you can see, there's a header up at this one, okay, with a logo in it and a picture. All right. And this is what our email newsletter looks like. Okay. And so there are many different ways that you can modify it and either change the template or change that individual newsletter. Okay, so let's start out with the pictures. So every account has a library. And so you're going to use the pictures that are in your library, or you're going to download them from your computer to your library, to your email newsletter library. So let's just, for example, take this picture here. Okay, and say we want to replace it. Okay, so it automatically pops up my library. Okay, and if I want to put that picture in, I just insert it. Okay, if I want to make it larger or smaller, okay, I can maneuver it just like that. And this is the same in MailChimp and the same in most email newsletter services. Okay, so here's how you can link it. Okay, you can link a picture or a text, okay, to a website, an email. You can create a separate document. Let's say that you have some text and it's really long, okay, and you want to link it. You want to take the text, write 3 or 4 sentences, and then link it to a whole document. Okay, you don't want to put a huge long document in there. So you can link it here. Let's say we want to link this to a web address. Great, you just write the web address right there. Press insert. Oh yeah, that's right. It's not in there. Okay, and now that's linked. Okay, so that's how you do different images. Okay, so let's say we want to replace this again. I'm going to do it one more time. So we go up to replace, and let's say you want a new image. Okay, then you upload a file. You slide, drop and drag. That's one of the easier things that they've done with Constant Contact, is the drop and drag for everything. Okay, so now your picture's in there. And remember that sometimes pictures are going to be too large, sometimes they're going to be a different format, but it will tell you what the problem is with the picture. You don't have to worry about the physical size on the email too much because you can make it larger or smaller. So here's the picture I'm going to insert right here. If I pressed insert, it would just go right in there. But they've also added this edit button. And it's very fun. I haven't used this that much because it's as one of my clients said, oh boy, I could go down a rabbit hole with this one. So you can crop, you can make all sorts of changes here. You can add watermarks, you can add text, you can do whatever you want right within this area, which is super, super helpful if you wanted some text across here, or you wanted to make the picture shorter, cut off the bottom of it. You do it right in here, okay? Then you close this. Oh, and I already inserted it. So, and then if you want to add text, see this pink line? There you go. So then it'll add some copy here, and then you just delete that and add your own copy, right? So adding text is easy. You can add a button. Okay, visit our website and just, you can change what's on there. You can change the color, and then of course you link it. You can change, the different fonts or bold or any of that. So this is how you're creating the look of your newsletter and creating a template. So up here on Build, so this is where we are right now on Build. We're going to move down. If you have the more expensive version, then you'll be able to do all these different things here. So on the bottom.
Oh, we're getting a few questions coming in that are related to this.
Okay, great.
So someone asked, can you put a button within text?
Yes, but not easily. Mm-hmm. The best way to do that is to create a text box right here, then put your button, and then create the text down the bottom. There might be, oops, my computer is doing strange things today. So there might be a way to do it. That would be a perfect example of something that you would call Constant Contact for and say, I'd love it if I could put the button right within the text, and they'll do some fancy HTML work, and they will put that in there for you.
Awesome. And then Celia's just asking, where is that pink line coming from? So when you're dragging and dropping?
Yes, so the pink line is when you're moving something over. Like if you're moving this image over, see that? The pink line shows up as far as where you're going to put it, okay? Say, and it's a little bit fussy, you have to fuss with it, but for example, I just put a picture here, or a placeholder for a picture, okay? Now, if I wanted that picture, see how it's lined up flush left? If I want it lined up flush right, it'll move over. And, really you learn this from doing it. And these buttons are drag and drop. So, it's a good way to just get used to using them. In this section is about images. So if you wanted to, use a certain image, you could drag it and drop. I don't know if you can drag and drop there. Yeah, look at that. Okay, and remember you can make them larger, smaller, whatever. And then this one is about global designs. And as you can see, my screen is moving over. So this is about changing backgrounds. You can have like a, see how that pattern background is in there. You can also change the color of it. And so it's for kind of global colors. So for example, if you always wanted these buttons to be blue, you could set that up in that design pattern. So anything else that has to do with campaigns? Any other questions?
Yeah, so we have one from Vrishali. So she asked, do you also have an option to upload a newsletter that you have already created with another software?
I could not answer that question. I'm sure it depends on the other software, but no, as far as I know, you can't upload like a whole newsletter. You could, I suppose. Let's go into this test copy that I've been working on. I suppose if you took a picture of it, say you took a picture of that newsletter, you could upload it as a picture and then put it in your newsletter. Or you could upload sections of it. Maybe that would be the best way to do that. So treat it as a picture. Like if this were a newsletter, you could ostensibly you could do that, like have this be a picture of it. Does that make sense?
I think so, but Vrishali, if that didn't make sense or if you have additional questions, feel free to put it in the chat and we'll definitely answer. Let me check the chat too. This one came in before, and maybe we can just touch on it briefly right now. So Eva just asked, I have recently registered as a not-for-profit, and is it okay to apply this training and consider my not-for-profit as a business?
So you can send email newsletters as a non-for-profit, sure.
Yeah, I think that answers the question. I think she was just, at least for me, I think this is super applicable to whether you're running your nonprofit or your small business.
Oh,
I think, yeah, these are all tips that you can translate to either one for sure.
Yep, for sure.
And I think that's all the questions for now.
Okay, so let's talk about the subject line, which is right up here. So when you start a newsletter, they'll ask you for the name of the newsletter. And that's the name for you internally, you know, October's newsletter, February's newsletter. But right here is where you put the subject line, you put the subject here, okay? And so that's the first thing that someone is going to see is that subject line, okay? So that's important. It's something, I mean, email newsletters are great, but if no one opens them, then they're not working. They're not so great. So you have to think of what is going to be something enticing that will make people open up the newsletter. And that's where the subject line comes in, okay? And underneath the subject line is something called a pre-header. And that's this right here. So that's, you know, when you get an email, there's always another little line there. So that is important also. So it just gives your person a little bit of information to say, wow, maybe I will open that up. And I think in the content creation class that Anita and I did, we talked about how important subject lines are. So that in Constant Contact, this is where you add them. So let's see. So you've got your email newsletter the way you want it with the different pictures. Okay, and so this was a picture that we put in. And down at the bottom, usually it's, I think it's mandatory that you put your physical address, but also you might want to put some of your social media links. Okay, and then, and you have to make sure it's saved, of course. And then there's this check and preview, okay? So if the preview is just basically looking at it, okay? And you can send it to one person to view it right here if you want to. The one I like best is sending a test, okay? And so that is, and I always, I've learned the hard way, I have to tell you, I always, when I do a newsletter for someone, I always send it to myself first, always, because there's something a little bit different about reading it when you get it in your inbox. It just looks, some of the formatting might look a little bit different, but also it's you're reading it from the email, so you're looking at it differently and more able to catch mistakes. So here's what we do is I send an email newsletter to a couple of different people, our communications person and my executive director. And oftentimes I put this little personal note in, please look at paragraph 2, change the wording if you want to, and then send now, right? Which I'm not going to do because they'll get this weird email. So that's a way that you can double check before you send out your email. And this check for errors is new also. It says maybe you're missing a link. There's a placeholder here for text. That's great. So now you're ready to send it out. Okay. So obviously there's an option to send it now, schedule it for later, and you can do that all right down here with all this different scheduling.
Hey, Dave. We're only seeing like about half the page. Is there any way to?
Yeah, my screen is doing kind of a funny thing where it's going halfway over. See how it's moving?
Yeah.
So that is some kind of weird glitch I had last night.
Gotcha.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to restart it again.
Perfect. Okay.
So thanks for letting me know. So this schedule for later is great because you can schedule it at any time of day. Sending early results, definitely want to do that. Or you can just do the send now. And people always ask me, what is the best time to send an email newsletter? Well, it really depends on your audience and what they're doing. In one of the workshops that I was in, there was a guy who had a business, he was selling something to parents of school-age kids. He wasn't getting much traction on his newsletter. And so we asked him, well, what time are you sending it? And he said, well, the only time that I have time to send it is 3 or 4 in the afternoon before I pick up my kids. Well, guess what? All of your clients are picking up their kids too. So no one looks at it right away until the end of the day. And then if it's not right in front of them, then maybe they dismiss it. So he changed and sent his email newsletter to his potential clients at like 8 o'clock at night, 8:39, when he knew that the parents had put their kids to bed and then they were jumping on their computer to see what happened. His rate of engagement went really high because of that. So it used to be there were all these guidelines, don't send it on the weekend, send it at a certain time, but now they basically say, send it when you think your clients will open it, because we're all on our phones, we're all on our computers at many hours of the day. So it's not as important as it used to be. So it's great. And when you schedule it also, what you can't see over here, this half, is about which list you want to send it to. So that's what's important there. So sending it is really easy. And I think that MailChimp has this also, but Constant Contact, you can then send that newsletter to a link on your social media. So it's all combined a little bit. So I think that's about it as far as sending and scheduling. Constant Contact has a thing called resend to non-openers. And when you, see my screen is going to be a little off on here too. So what that does is after it's being sent, if someone has not opened it, you can schedule after 4 days, you can resend it to those people that have not opened it. And I suggest doing that, 3 or 4 times a year. Don't do it all the time, and if someone isn't opening it consistently, maybe they don't want it. But certainly we've all been in a position where we've said, oh, I'll look at that later, and then we forget about it. So let's see. So do we have any questions about that before I go into reporting?
We did have a question come in. So she asked, I am a nurse and am planning to do some educative newsletters, but information from research-based database. How can I do this safely? Can copy and paste work with sources cited?
So certainly you can put a link to that database or to that the rest of the citation. I'm going to show you how to do that now. What you would do is you would take that document and you would upload it into your library. Okay? And so it's a document in your library. Then let's say this, see these words, call to action? Let's say you're writing about it and you write 3 or 4 sentences about that document. Then you highlight it and you link it, and you're going to link it to the document. And often what people do is they write, for more information, click here. Right? For more information, click here, and then you would take this, you would link it to the document or to the web page if that information is on the web page. Okay, and then you can upload the document right here, and then select it, and then insert. So you have to upload the document. That's why it's not working. So I think that answers the question. One best practice in email newsletters is to not make them really long. I mean, we all know, we've all been there where you get a newsletter like, oh my God, it's important information, I want to read it, but later. And then you never get back to it. So one best practice is to write 3 or 4 sentences or something really enticing. And if you want to go into details, then do exactly that. Put, read more here, click read more, and then link it to the document or link it to the website that will be cited. So the other trend in email newsletters, of course, is more graphics. And so that if you want to get something really, people are skimming things a lot, you might want to just put a couple of key graphics on there and say, and link the graphic to a document or a web page where they can find more information. Does that answer that okay?
I think so. And then we actually got a great question from Eva. So she asked, what's the average number of pages for a newsletter? But then she also said, for a first newsletter, what would be considered important content?
Well, it really depends on your, it really depends on your business. Right now, like I said, I was working with a client before this, and important for him right now is to say, guess what? My business is open. We don't know. Our business is open, aren't they? What are their hours? So he wanted to reassure people that his business was open and that he was taking all these different COVID precautions. Okay, so that feels important. If you're a brand new business and it's your first email newsletter, I'd write, guess what? This is our first email newsletter. And I might say to them, we're going to email you once a month or every 2 weeks or only when we have something important, because, no one wants more email. What we want is we want information. We want we want only our information that we want. Like if I sign up for an email newsletter from an organization, I sign up because I want their information. And if they send me too many of them, then I'll say delete. So you might want to introduce yourself, introduce your business, tell them how often you're going to email them, and tell them what you're going to put in the email. You might even ask them, what do you want? What do you want to hear from us? So remember, it's about them. It's not about you. You don't have to tout everything. You know, my product or service is the best ever. I have all these certifications and me. No, think about what they need and what they want. Do they want a coupon from you? Is that enticing? Do they want educational information? What's top of mind? Like, what are they thinking about? And the other thing that I get a lot, people say, do people really read email newsletters? Well, if it has good information and good content, they do. But it's also something that I know I do this. I keep track. If I'm interested in a business, if I know, for example, that I'm going to need my roof fixed, but I'm not going to do it now, I might go to a couple of websites and sign up for their newsletter. And then, and then when I'm at that stage of doing that, then I'll kind of know a little bit more about them. If they're spamming me, I'll say, sorry, I don't want to do that. But if they send good information about how to make decisions about that, I might say, and then when I'm ready to pick that service, it's great because I don't have to look around anymore. So it keeps you top of mind with your clients. So anything else there, Sam?
No questions yet, but Vishali just kind of had a comment. So Constant Contact has a free trial for 2 months right now, limited for up to 100 contacts. Do most like email services, and maybe this is me making assumptions, but do they let you kind of like try it out for a month? Do you know?
I don't know if most email services do that. That's certainly always been that way for Constant Contact. Because MailChimp is free, that's a non-issue for them. That's a good question, but some email newsletter services are tied to a point of purchase system, like Square has an email newsletter service. So I don't know.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
At the end of the workshop, I'm going to give a discount code for Constant Contact. So it'll help out a little bit. So let's look at reporting. So reporting is kind of interesting, and it's like everything, like on your social media. I mean, you have to look at it, right? Constant Contact does send what's called early results, which is kind of nice to see. So they do this nice little overview that you can look at, 30, 60 days, the past 90 days, whatever. And you can see your open rate, your unopened rate, which, will be shockingly high. Your click rate, how many times people clicked on something, to go to another site, like we just did those links. So Constant Contact will tell you how much engagement or how many people clicked on those links to go to another site. How many opens, let's see. This one is kind of interesting. It's a comparative table which tells you which emails got the most responses from. Now notice this toolbox series we sent to 1,121. This first-time homebuyer grants we sent to 3,865. Okay, so it'll tell you the open rate here was only 6%, but for our marketing series it was 19%. So, and it'll tell you how many people clicked, and the click rate. It's kind of, it's skewed a little bit, because if you put 5 or 6 places that people can click in there, you're going to get a higher click rate than if you only put one place to click and people aren't interested in that. So, and bounces are email addresses that people have that are either bad email addresses or I forget, there's a couple other reasons for that. So that isn't too much to worry about unless you're getting very high numbers, and then you can go in and delete them. So, and you'll always get a couple unsubscribes. You know, that's common. Don't get offended. Don't get worried. It's not like an unfriending. It just means, you know, maybe they don't need the service anymore, or they've moved, or so this is kind of a comparative chart. When you first send out your email newsletter and you check early results, you'll get to see right off the bat how many people saw it immediately, like I said, which is kind of fun.
And we actually had a question come in kind of related to that. So what would you consider a good rate of opens for a campaign?
Well, one of the things that happens when you sign up is they ask you what industry you're in. And so then they have typical open rates or click rates for the industry that you're in, and they all vary. You know, I don't want to make a generalization. I suppose I could make a positive generalization that people who are in the digital marketing field, they might open more emails regularly, where maybe someone who works in the trades or works outside, like at a garden center or something, maybe they wouldn't open as many, simply because of the fact that if you're at your computer all day, you're more apt to open things than not. So it's a little bit industry specific. I believe they tell you that. I'm trying to look here to see if, and there's all these little, see this, improve your click rates, improve your open rates. I mean, you know, one of the reasons I like Constant Contact is that they're always trying to educate you a little bit if you want. I don't see where that is, but it'll say average click rate, so, or average open rate. So like I said, it's different with different industries. So anything else?
No questions that I'm seeing.
Okay, so let's go back then to the slideshow. And maybe, Sam, you can tell me whether, can you see this now?
No, you might want to do a new share. It might be easier that way.
Okay. It's funny because one of the reasons I did it this way was because I wanted to be able to share it easily. So let's see. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Create, customize, and send an email.
Got it.
So that's what we just did. That's all that we just did. We looked at the results, we sent it, we added the contacts, we made a different template. And so now, and we've reviewed this already, but you know, how do I improve my contact lists and increase it? And I went through before the different regulations, permission-based. There must be an unsubscribe at the bottom of the email so that people can unsubscribe. And you must have a physical location listed at the bottom of the email. So these are, I believe, federal regulations having to do with email newsletters. So then there's 3 categories of list growth, you know, in person, when you meet someone. If you're, if you're at a coffee shop and you're exchanging email addresses, online with different pop-ups or in your inbox, and then of course print. So those are areas where you can add context. And one way to do that is to use a pop-up like this, right? And you know what? I don't know sometimes I hate these, sometimes I love them, right? And it really depends on what product they have. And, do you want to sign up for their email list? I actually, because I do a lot of email newsletters, I have a email address specifically for email newsletters that I may not want so much. And so that makes that separation really easy for me. Joining our email list, that's kind of passe. We don't talk about that anymore. Sorry, you don't want to join our email list. You want to show them they get discounts and promotions. You want to show them that you know where they're at in their business and that you're a follower of them. Or you want to show them that you're going to get exclusive content. So it's not about that. It's not about you. It's always about them. How to focus on what's in it for them. So, and on Thursday, I'm doing same time, a workshop on what's trending in emails, in email marketing. And so we're going to review this click segmentation, basically different groups, A/B testing, send to non-openers we did before, and also automatic emails. And those automated ones are really great. So I'm just going to give a little bit of a summary. Why do we email newsletters? Well, it's cheaper than printing things, isn't it? And it's also quicker, right? You can send something very quickly. Even if it's not a whole newsletter, it could be just a portion of a newsletter. Like I was talking about before with, things on sale. $25 a month is where Constant Contact starts. MailChimp is free until 500 subscribers. Here you can target or group the customers according to their preferences. That's about those lists. And you can learn who opens and clicks on your newsletter via the reports. And social media, like I said, this is connected with social media in the Constant Contact account, but certainly you can put your whole newsletter into a social media post. Branding with newsletters, using the same colors and fonts as your website is traditionally how you do an email newsletter. So you have similar branding. And one thing we didn't go over with is often at the bottom of an email newsletter, you can put forward to my friends or a link that forwards them easily. So it helps you keep in front of your customers regularly. And then this last one, because I'm with Constant Contact, I get to offer 30% off for the first 3 months for new accounts. So if that's something you're interested in, if you're interested in a new Constant Contact account, then just email me, within this following week. It's good for a week. And I can help you get set up, and I can also, I can help you get set up. So, and then you get 30% off for 3 months. So, yeah, so I'm open to questions. If there's anything else that you want to review.
Awesome. So we have a few questions that have already come in. So Sheila asked, is there a recommended amount of frequency of sending emails that will not make the clients crazy? Some companies send things almost every day. I tend to send when there is something new happening in my business.
Yes. So it's nice to have some kind of regularity, like once a month or twice a week. You certainly don't want to wait a long time in between, like more than a month, to get an email newsletter, because you want people to keep remembering you and be reminded, oh yeah, they're in business. The second part of that question.
Let me pull it back up. Let's see.
So how often?
I mean, that kind of answered it. So she just said, is there a recommended amount or frequency of sending emails that will not make clients crazy? Some
Right.
companies send things almost every day. I tend to send things when there is something new happening in my business.
Yeah. So I would say once a month is a good amount of time, but it kind of depends, because, for example, when I had a garden center, and I did a lot of email newsletters for garden centers, we would send it twice a week when it was in season, when people were getting plants and thinking about plants. We'd send it, twice a month. So, if a business is busy and active and there's a lot of new going on, you could send it more than once a month. What I wouldn't do, and garden centers that close in the winter have said to me, well, I don't want to send an email newsletter in the middle of winter. We're closed. People can't buy stuff from us. Well, guess what? People are looking at seed catalogs. They're thinking about where am I going to plant this? What am I going to do for next season? And even though you may not be open, you will be top of mind when your business does open, if it's a seasonal business. So, and by now, almost every business should have a e-commerce site. I believe that's in a webinar coming up soon, so that, email newsletters become even more important because they can link to your e-commerce site. So, it depends on your business. It also depends on your content, if you have content that people are interested in. So.
Awesome. And then we have another question. So Katisha asked, you mentioned putting your whole newsletter into a social media post. And I think she's just looking for some clarification around that.
So let me just think about that for a second. It wouldn't be your whole newsletter. It would be a link to your newsletter.
Awesome. That answers it perfectly. Yeah.
Great.
And then along with that, how do you suggest converting Facebook, LinkedIn connections to newsletter subscribers?
If we could do that, we'd all have 1 million subscribers, wouldn't we? So if you have a Facebook subscriber, they're not necessarily permission-based for your newsletter. You have to ask them. So you could put on your Facebook, wouldn't you like to get this content more often? And then there could be a link to something that's had a checkbox that said, yes, I'd like to subscribe to the newsletter. Then you'd have to have them put their email address on there so that you can have their email address and add the account. Does that make sense? Because you can't just take people from Facebook or LinkedIn and add them. First of all, you don't have their email addresses. So you can't just add them to your email newsletter account. You have to ask them for their email and have them say yes, that they will be on your newsletter. So I showed that one picture of a pop-up. That's always a good thing to do. So you basically have to create an ad in your social media asking them. And the best way to do that is giving them like a piece of content. Like you say, would you like a white paper on the 10 best ways to do X? And then they say, oh yeah, that'd be great. And then you put your email address in here and check the box that says you'll be on our email newsletter. So that's how you do it. So, like I said, if there was a real easy way, then we'd all have lots of people on our email newsletter accounts.
Exactly. So we have a couple more minutes. Let's see. So someone just asked, how do you create a pop-up so they can subscribe?
So I only know how to do it from Constant Contact. It will walk you through the steps. I'm not going to go over to the account because then I got to switch screens again. But there's a up in the header. It'll say sign in forms. Okay, and then it'll say what kind of sign in form do you want. It'll give you a drop down, and then you just follow it and go. You know, it's too bad that video didn't work, because one of the great things about Constant Contact is that they have all these short little videos that are really informative. They're like, 58 seconds, 2 minutes. And you just look up, and you can do it without having an account. If you just look up Constant Contact videos and go on there, you'll see all these short little videos about how to. It's great. It's really great. So they're definitely a good resource, and they're also a good resource for small business ideas too. Like, for example, giving you templates on fall and templates on different holidays that you can just use right off the bat and change your name, put your logo in there, and you're done.
So I don't see any more questions in here, but everyone does have Dee's email. So if anything comes up afterwards and you're like, oh, dang, I wish I asked that.
Yep.
But yeah, and we're going to have a lot more webinars coming up. So definitely feel free to join those. Dee, I don't know if you have anything.
No, I'd say on Thursday, like I said, the advanced email newsletter is a good one. And I would suggest that people go, if this is what you want to do, go in, create an account, and get started using it, so that when we go to the advanced one, you'll kind of, it's like anything you learn. There's all sorts of language, lists, segmentation, and you'll learn kind of where things are. And by just going in there and actually doing a few things, it'll enable you to get started a little faster. One of the things that's really important, and I've seen this numerous times too, is you get your template made, you're all set to go, you have your lists in, and you send it once, and you're like, woohoo, that was great. And then a few weeks go by, and you're like, oh my God, I got to do another one. And making it simple to do will actually make it easier for you to do. And if you have a few other people in your organization, have each of them do one section of it. I had a particular client that was really having a hard time getting their content to me. So it was Garden Center. And so we put up a big piece of white paper. We put the topics all across them, and we said, any staff, fill this in. And people would give suggestions. And then someone would say, oh, I'll write that up, or, oh, I can take pictures of this. And so it was, a community effort in the business. So just, making it easier all the way around. So, because really the hardest part is just getting in a rhythm and doing it regularly, right? Everybody knows that. So.
Perfect. And now we are right at 2:30. So perfect timing. Awesome. Well, thank you so much to everyone who joined today.
Great. Thank you for hosting, Sam. And I'll see you on Thursday.
Perfect. Sounds good. All right. Hope everyone has a great day.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.